The top stories tonight in Y News. The first batch of overseas Filipino workers from war-torn Afghanistan have arrived in Manila today.
Malacañang clarifies that President Rodrigo Duterte is not threatening the Commission on Audit following reports of alleged discrepancies in the use of government funds.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III expressed dismay over Commission on Audit findings on 67 billion peso COVID-19 funds, but COA clarifies they did not release any adverse audit reports to media.
U.S. President Joe Biden strongly defends his decision to pull U.S. troops out of Afghanistan.
Malaysian Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has handed in his resignation due to failed COVID-19 response. And the world. We are now reporting live from Quezon City. Today is Tuesday, August 17, 2021. I am Herlene Delgado.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am William Theo.
First in the news. The Commission on Audit continues to flag various government agencies due to alleged deficiencies in the use of government funds. Last night, President Rodrigo Duterte reprimanded COA and said that it should publishing reports as they would taint these agencies with corruption by perception. But the palace clarifies that the president is not threatening COA. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Stop that flagging. Do not publish it, because it will condemn the agency or the person that you are flagging. Huwag naman sige kayo flag ng flag. Tapos wala namang napreso, wala naman lahat. And yet you know that when you flag, there is already a taint of corruption by perception.
Malacañang today denied that the president threatened the Commission on Audit. The clarification was made after President Rodrigo Duterte issued statements last night against COA. This is in relation to the flagging of the Department of Health for deficiencies in the use of 67.3 billion pesos COVID-19 response funds. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque argued that the chief executive was just expressing or airing his frustration.
Pero ang sinasabi lang ng Presidente, frustrated siya. Kasi ang basa ng taong bayan sa initial observations, meron ng condemnation. Hindi naman po ganoon ang proseso. Kasi pati sa COA, alam nila na initial observations, sasagutin, tapos tsaka sila magkakaroon ng final report.
The palace official also said the president just wanted to change the COA's process.
Pero ang issue siguro ng Presidente, yung proseso. Siguro ang gusto mangyari ni Presidente, huwag munang isa publiko ang preliminary observations na hindi pa naman nasasagot ng mga ahensya. Kasi pag lathala na sa media, yung preliminary observations, para bagang nagkasala na yung ahensya, no? Na naging personal niyang karanasan.
The palace also clarified that all inquiries into the DOH can continue. It also acknowledges the fact that the president cannot or has no power to prevent both houses of Congress to conduct probe on the said matter. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The House of Representatives today conducted a congressional inquiry on the deficiencies in the Department of Health's utilization of 67.32 billion pesos in COVID-19 funds. During the briefing of the Commission on Audit, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III turns emotional. Nel Maribohok will tell us why live. Yes, Nel?
7.32 billion pesos fund for COVID-19 response. The Secretary expressed his dismay over the release of the Commission on Audit findings. He admits to losing sleep because of shame. Secretary Duque also lamented that the issue has damaged the dignity of the DOH and its workers, including himself.
Winaharap na ninyo kami. Winaharap na ninyo ang dangal ng DOH. Winaharap ninyo ang lahat ng mga kasama ko dito. Hindi kami makaharap sa mga tao dahil lahat, ang dami-daming sinasabi, ang dami-daming paratang. Wala pa rin akong tulog. Ilang gabi na po ito. Kasi this is really unfair, unjust. That this judgment has been handed down clearly without giving the DOH.
But COA Chairperson Michael Aguinaldo defended the release of the audit report. He explained that this is a requirement by law. Aguinaldo clarified that they did not release any sensitive COA findings to the media.
I just would like to clarify that hindi po kami nagre-release sa media ng mga adverse audit findings or so. We do not. In fact, in my almost 7 years in the Commission, I think I have issued only not more than 10 press releases the entire time. And none of them had to do with telling media the audit findings, except I think twice for performance audit. All the others were clarifications, and in fact, there was one we issued with respect to the DOH audit report, where we said that wala namang findings doon that money was lost due to corruption.
The COA chief also answered criticism of President Rodrigo Duterte.
We do not flag. We just observe and recommend. The flagging is actually a term used by media. Pero kami hindi nag-flag because some of our observations are actually positive.
The committee hearing has already suspended and the lower house will continue the hearing on Thursday, August 19. Arlene?
Thank you, Nel Maribohok, reporting live. President Rodrigo Duterte still trusts Health Secretary Francisco Duque III. This is amid the recent controversies hounding the Department of Health. Apart from lawmakers and opposition members, some health workers are demanding for the resignation of the health chief for failure to provide them their due benefits.
It is not fair to the people kagaya mo who have been working, toiling para sa alam ko gusto mo nang mag-resign, pero alam mo rin na tatanggihan kita. Ngayon, noon, you have attempted to resign twice. I expect you to say something to me of this way, mag-resign ka. Sabihin ko sa iyo, hindi. Wala ka namang ginawang masama. Bakit ka mag-resign?
All cabinet members serve at the pleasure of the President, and Secretary Duque, according to the President last night, continues to have his full trust and confidence.
It's the Senate's turn tomorrow to inquire the Health Department's use of COVID-19 funds, particularly the issue on delayed payments to health workers. For a lawmaker, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III is not yet off the hook and should be ready to answer his possible neglect of duty. This report will tell us why. Some senators want Health Secretary Francisco Duque III to personally explain the deficiencies flagged by the Commission on Audit on the agency's COVID-19 response fund. Senator Risa Hontiveros says Duque will have to prepare for questions as the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee begins its initiated investigation on the matter. Earlier, Senator Richard Gordon, who sits as the committee's chairperson, said they will focus first on the delayed payment of benefits and allowances to healthcare workers.
Sa kabila ng pagmamatigas ni Presidente na walang maling ginawa si Sec Duque or wala silang pagkukulang, sigurado ko magiging ibang-iba ang findings namin sa Senado.
For the opposition senator, to say that the health secretary did nothing wrong was just insensitive.
That speaks volumes of absolute insensitivity sa mga nagkasakit, sa mga pamilya ng mga namatay, sa mga healthcare workers at pamilya nila. I'm sorry, walang case si Presidente na sabihin kay Sec Duque na you did nothing wrong. Kasi yung simpleng mga numero speak for themselves.
Now that it is evident that the health chief still enjoys the trust and confidence of the President, for Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, Secretary Duque should now at least act with urgency.
Ang hamon natin kay Secretary Duque, ayaw kayo palitan ng Presidente, malaking tiwala po ng ating Pangulo sa inyo. then correct the deficiencies. Double time na lang po kayo ng trabaho. Kung sinabi ni Duque, nandyan daw yung pondo, kung nandyan yung pondo, ibigay na. Kasi kung mag-mass resignation, ito mga private sector nurses and doctors, kawawa ang healthcare system natin.
Meanwhile, Zubiri also calls on the National Task Force versus COVID-19 to expedite the signing of the tripartite agreements for the vaccine orders of local government units. He says there are over 42 LGUs that have pending applications with the national government. The Senate Majority Leader has also filed a resolution seeking to inquire the government's vaccine procurements in a bid to ramp up the vaccination in rural areas.
We're looking at about 10 million vaccines already ordered but had yet been delivered because of the unsigned tripartite agreement. Sayang din yun. It's 5 million Filipinos that are waiting to be inoculated at no cost to the national government.
The task force has yet to comment on Zubiri's appeal. Jorlene Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, some senators and anti-corruption groups slammed President Rodrigo Duterte over his pronouncement against the Commission on Audit report. Dante Amento tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte's criticism against the Commission on Audit over its findings of the alleged deficiencies on the use of DOH COVID-19 fund contradicts his fight against corruption. According to InfraWatch PH and National Union of People's Lawyers or NUPL, the President's criticism in the COA report is just a way to hide the occurring corruption in his government.
Dahil meron nakikita mga anomalya, meron nakikita pagkukulang, talagang gusto kong talupan ng Pangulo ang lahat po ng mga institusyon katulad ng Commission on Audit. Pero mataas po yung tiwala natin sa historical role ng COA. Sa loob po ng mahabang panahon,
hindi na tayo naubusan ng panggugulat mula sa ating presidente, no? Nakakabahala, no? Isa na naman ito sa mga latest na mga pananalita na medyo delikado ang implikasyon, no? Sa maraming dahilan. Una, ang COA ay isang dapat ay independyente na komisyon na konstitusyonal.
Opposition Senator Risa Ontiveros stresses President Duterte should not intervene with COA for it is an independent constitutional body.
At muli, akala ko ba talagang kontra korupsyon si Presidente? So, bakit nila pipigilan ang Commission on Audit na i-release yung kanilang mga ulat? At saka yung annual audit reports ng COA ay mga public documents. So hindi yan dapat state secret, lalo na hindi dapat sikreto ng Office of the President. Sasama ba ang loob ni Presidente or ng OP kung ilabas?
Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri, on the other hand, explains instead of criticizing COA's findings, involved agencies such as DOH should improve their performance.
Alam ko, nagalit po ng ating mahal na Pangulo pagkami sa COA, pero yan pong trabaho ng COA. Pinapakita talaga ng COA ang mga deficiencies, inefficiency, corruption of national government agencies and even with the judiciary and the legislative.
Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Duterte administration proposes more than 5 trillion pesos national budget for the year 2022. The proposed budget, which is 11.5% higher than the 2021 budget, will be submitted to Congress next Monday. This is the final budget for the chief executive's term. Rosalie Cos reports.
The administration of President Rodrigo Duterte is seeking the passage of the 5.024 trillion peso national budget for 2022. This amount aims to help the Philippines recover from coronavirus pandemic. The proposed budget is equivalent to 22.8% of the gross domestic product and 11.5% higher than the 2021 allotment.
Sa ngayon ay pina-finalize na po at piniprint ang Fiscal Year 2022 National Expenditure Program or NEP at target na maisume ito sa Kongreso sa Lunes, August 23, 2021.
The social services sector, which includes health-related services as well as education-related programs, will receive the highest allocation, followed by the economic services sector with 1.474 trillion pesos allocation that involves key infrastructure projects under the Build, Build, Build program. Meanwhile, the education sector will still receive the highest budget, followed by the Departments of Public Works and Highways, Interior and Local Government, Department of Health, Department of National Defense, Department of Social Welfare and Development, Department of Transportation, and others. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the government still prioritizes the pandemic response when asked why DPWH has a higher budget than DOH.
Talaga pong prioridad natin ang kalusugan sa panahon ng pandemya. Pero wag po natin kalimutan yung ating mga TTMFs, yung ating mga modular hospitals, ang nagpapatupad po niyan DPWH din. So malaking bahagi po ng budget ng DPWH ay para din po sa ating COVID response.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching our 24/7 live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The Philippine National Police has recorded 12 COVID-19 deaths in 2 weeks. And because of this, PNP leadership again urged their personnel to double their protection and get vaccinated as soon as possible. Leia Ilagan reports.
Out of 219 police personnel across the Philippines, only about 81,000 or 36% of the total number of our police officers have been fully inoculated against COVID-19. 95,000 have received their first dose. 45,000 others have yet to be vaccinated. That is why the PNP leadership continues to encourage police personnel to get their COVID-19 vaccine doses. This is especially now that more transmissible COVID-19 variants are emerging. PNP Deputy Chief for Administration and Commander of Administrative Support on COVID-19 Task Force, Lieutenant General Joselito Veracruz stresses that getting inoculated is one way to minimize deaths among policemen. Based on the PNP's records, 90% of the COVID-19 fatalities among PNP personnel are unvaccinated. PNP data also shows that from August 1st, 2021 up to present, 12 cops have succumbed to the virus.
Si PNP Police General Guillermo Eleazar ay inuulit niya yung kanyang guidance sa lahat ng PNP personnel na magpabakuna, no? At sumunod sa ating health protocols at saka huwag mag-self-medicate.
Veracruz also urges their personnel to get a pneumonia vaccine job since more than 60% of the COVID-19 casualties succumbed to community-acquired pneumonia. PNP Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar reminds the PNP personnel to double their protection.
Ang ating pulis in particular, tayo nagpapatupad, dapat tayong gayahin at hindi lamang yun para sa ating proteksyon, lagi naka-face mask at naka-face shield. Dagdag na proteksyon kung ang makausap natin sa lansangan, naka-face shield din at naka-face mask.
The PNP still has 1,985 active COVID-19 cases as of today, August 17. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health, or DOH, advises the adult population to get vaccinated and keep children safe against the coronavirus disease. Aiko Miguel explains why.
More than 200 COVID-19 cases were recorded for ages 0 to 9-year-olds this August. A 60% increase on COVID-19 infection was also observed among 10 to 19-year-olds. According to experts, they have observed that cases increase in all age groups since Delta variant cases were detected in the country.
May nakikita po tayong pagtaas ng kaso sa lahat ng age group sa ating bansa. Ang mga kasong naitala sa edad na 0 to 9 years old ay tumaas ng 1% noong Hulyo at 74% ngayong Agosto. Subalit wala pong malaking pagkakaiba yan sa kontribusyon ng bawat group sa total dami ng tao o dami ng kaso dito sa ating bansa.
The DOH clarifies that still most of the death cases are seen among 60-year-olds and above. Deaths among 0 to 9-year-olds are just less than 1% of the recorded death cases in the country, but the DOH reiterated children should be protected. This protection is called a cocoon strategy.
Kung mababakunahan po natin yung mga nakapalibot sa ating mga kabataan ay mga kasama sa bahay, we will also be able to protect the children inside their homes.
The Health Department provided other tips to protect the children against COVID-19, such as for children below 2 years old, they should not wear masks but face shields are advisable. To those exposed with COVID-19 infection, they can undergo COVID-19 testing, but parents should still guide and assist them. Children can undergo isolation under the monitoring and consent of their parents. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The effect of the enhanced community quarantine or ECQ on the COVID-19 situation in Metro Manila may be felt 4 to 5 weeks after its reimposition, according to the OCTA Research Group's projection. JP Nunez reports.
The COVID-19 reproduction rate in the National Capital Region has increased to 1.55 according to the monitoring of OCTA Research. This means that the transmission rate of COVID-19 has increased. This is amid the ECQ reimposed in the NCR. Over the weekend, 63% of the total COVID-19 cases recorded were from Metro Manila, Calabarzon, and Central Luzon region. OCTA Research Team Fellow Professor Guido David explains that the effects of the 2-week ECQ in the NCR will be felt 4 or 5 weeks after.
Siyempre inaasahan natin na yung ECQ mapapabagal yung hawaan sa NCR. And base sa sa history naman natin last August last year, and then nung March 2021, mga 4 na linggo usually, 4 to 5 weeks, bago natin makita magsimula bumaba yung bilang ng kaso. So hindi agad-agad natin nakita yung epekto ng enhanced community quarantine.
Based on OCTA Research Team's observation, the community quarantine measures last year were stricter than those implemented this year. This is the reason they see why COVID-19 cases are increasing despite the imposition of restrictions, as many Filipinos still go outdoors. The group recommends stricter enforcement of community quarantine protocols.
Pwede pa siguro kung mag-decide yung IATF na extend, pwede pa nilang higpitan siguro yung at least kahit yung implementation ng quarantine. May mga nababalitaan pa rin tayo, may mga nagkakaroon ng social gatherings. Sana naman magtulong-tulungan tayo mga kababayan natin.
OCTA projects that the ICU utilization rate in the NCR might still increase, which today was at 72%, while the hospital utilization rate might rise up to 70%. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine government eyes to procure billions more of vaccines this month. This is in order to reach its 50 million mark of total vaccines procured for the Filipinos. Marvin Calas reports.
The Philippines has breached its 40 million mark of acquired COVID-19 vaccines as we reach a total of 42,575,350 vaccine doses. At the moment, vaccine supplies are allocated mainly for areas with high COVID-19 cases. Vaccine Czar and Chief Implementer of the National Task Force Against COVID-19, Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says that more vaccine supplies are expected to arrive before the end of the month.
Ngayon, magkakaroon po tayo ng more or less mga 50 million pagka natapos po ang buwan ng Agosto. So malaki po yun na mahigit na 50 million na po tayo na vaccine na dumating po sa atin.
On August 19 to 20, 4 million doses of Sinovac vaccines are expected to arrive. 1 million doses of Sinopharm vaccines are set to arrive on August 21st, and 3 million doses procured from Sinovac will arrive in the 4th week. Another set of government and private sector procured vaccines are expected to be delivered in the country, including the government procured 65 million doses of vaccines from the United States.
Ito nga po ang nilalakad natin po sa American Embassy dahil meron po tayo 65 million na nabili po sa Pfizer, sa Johnson & Johnson at saka po sa Moderna. Kinausap po nga sila po kahapon at sinabi ko nga po, humingi po kami ng tulong na kung pwede pong ma-advance delivery po yung mga produkto po nito, dahil kasi kung may advance po yan, malaki pong tulong po sa atin.
President Rodrigo Duterte, in his talk to the nation on Monday, said he also seeks more vaccine supplies from China and the United States. The president added the Philippines has an allocated budget for procuring additional vaccine supplies for excess vaccines from other countries. Marvin Calas, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The COVID-19 vaccination program continues despite the implementation of enhanced community quarantine in the National Capital Region. As more and more Filipinos and people get vaccinated against COVID-19, Metro Manila Council Chairman Benhur-Abalos Jr. says shifting to another quarantine status may be discussed. Asher Cadapan Jr. tells us why.
COVID-19 vaccines intend to protect people against severe infection. The Metro Manila Council also believes this, as data shows that more than 60% of COVID-19 patients being brought in hospitals in the capital region are unvaccinated.
Sa totoo lang, sa findings ng mga mayors, halos 62% ng mga nasa ospital ngayon ay unvaccinated. No? Yung the rest ay halos 1 dose lang at yung 2 dose ay kokonti. No? Hindi ganun karami at lalong pagdating sa critical at severe, halos wala, halos kokonti po ang naka 2 dose. Karamihan po ay unvaccinated or even with 1 dose.
Based on the data gathered by the MMC, about 6.4 million individuals in Metro Manila have already received their first dose, while more than 4 million have been fully vaccinated. MMC and Metropolitan Manila Development Authority Chairman Benhur-Abalos Jr. explains that this may be a game changer in deciding whether to still implement the enhanced community quarantine or shift to another status.
Habang ECQ, bakuna tayo ng bakuna. No? Ang laking bagay nito. So dahil nga gano'n, siguro pwede na pag-usapan kung paano po yung ibang options. Bukod sa matinding ECQ, baka po pwede may iba-iba na.
Abalos further says that the current ECQ differs from the previous implementations due mainly to more vulnerable sectors being protected by the vaccines. The Metro Manila mayors, together with health experts among others, are scheduled to meet tonight to come up with its recommendation for the next quarantine status to be implemented after August 20. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The Philippines today recorded 10,035 new cases of novel coronavirus disease or COVID-19, pushing the nationwide tally of infections to 1,765,675. In its latest bulletin, the Department of Health or DOH said the country's number of active cases reached 105,787. Of these, 96.1% are mild, 0.9% are asymptomatic, 0.90% are moderate, 1.3% are severe, and 0.7% are in critical condition. Meanwhile, 10,858 more patients recovered from the viral disease, bringing the total recoveries to 1,629,426. The number of deaths relating to COVID-19 also climbed to 30,462, with 96 new fatalities. 6 accredited testing laboratories failed to submit their data on time. Meanwhile, the overall global COVID-19 caseload has reached 207,944,803, while the deaths have surged to 4,373,870, according to the Johns Hopkins University. The U.S. is still the worst-hit country, with the world's highest number of cases and deaths at 36,890,877 and 622,437, respectively, according to the CSSE. India follows with 32,250,679 cases and 432,079 deaths. In terms of deaths, Brazil comes second with 569,492 fatalities. The other countries with more than 6 million confirmed coronavirus cases are Russia, France, the United Kingdom, and Turkey. For those watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The first batch of overseas Filipino workers from Afghanistan have arrived in Manila today. As part of the repatriation program of the Philippine government, The Labor Department reminds the affected OFWs to avail of the government's assistance through OWA. Ray Palayo will tell us the details.
35 overseas Filipino workers who were evacuated from war-torn Afghanistan arrived earlier today. They were aboard a DFA chartered flight from Doha. These workers were taken out of Afghanistan last weekend by their respective companies when the Taliban forces overthrew the previous government. As of today, a total of 78 overseas Filipinos who availed of the mandatory repatriation are still waiting for a flight home. According to Joseph Glenn Gumpal, president of the Samahang Pilipino sa Afghanistan, the Philippine government assured they will be brought home anytime soon.
Ginawa ng Philippine government, kumuha ng charter na Philippine airline through US forces. Kaya dito kami sa base dito kami sa military base magbo-board.
According to Gumpal, there were also 178 Filipinos in Afghanistan. Some of them flee to safer grounds while there are still others who refuse to leave.
Kasi dito yung negosyo nila particularly kasi yun yung tinatawag namin doon sa update ko, yun yung tinatawag namin freelancers. Okay. May mga negosyo sila rito, ganon. Yung last count ko sa freelancers, they were 8. 8 sila. Pero 3 yata yung ayaw umuwi. Ayaw umalis. Dahil lang iniisip nila, the situation is already normal. Because ongoing na transition.
The Department of Labor and Employment meanwhile assured these workers of cash assistance amounting to 10,000 pesos through its Abot Kamay sa Pagtulong or AKA program.
Meron tayo yung programang AKAP, yung Abot Kamay sa Pagtulong sa mga OFW. Meron silang makukuha cash assistance from OWA at pagdating dito, kung sila ay mga Ponatite OWA member, meron silang mga programa under sa NRCO, National Reintegration Program ng OWA for the OFW.
Malacañang also expressed readiness to accept refugees from Afghanistan. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres earlier appealed to countries to show willingness to accept Afghan refugees and stop deportation. Ray Palayo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Evacuation flights from Afghanistan have resumed a day after the Taliban's military takeover. Military flights evacuating diplomats and civilians have started taking off. U.S. President Joe Biden strongly defends his decision to pull the U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. Marvi Delphine will tell us why live. Yes, Marvi?
Steph, President Joe Biden in a briefing on Monday insisted that the U.S. forces should not be fighting a losing battle. However, Biden is confident in being the president who is ready to take responsibility over the difficult decision.
I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me. I'm deeply saddened by the facts we now face. But I do not regret my decision to end America's war fighting in Afghanistan and maintain a laser focus on our counterterrorism missions there and other parts of the world.
He insisted that his decision was inherited from former President Donald Trump, who originally negotiated the withdrawal of the U.S. forces with the Taliban. The U.S. president blamed the Taliban's takeover on Afghan political leaders who fled the country and the unwillingness of the U.S.-trained Afghan army to fight the militant group.
Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed, sometime without trying to fight. If anything, the developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves.
Instead of sacrificing the lives of U.S. personnel in an impossible war, the president wants to shift focus on missions that are possible. The U.S. will continue to support the basic rights of the people of Afghanistan, not by deploying more troops, but with diplomacy, humanitarian aid, and international support. The situation in Kabul remains uncertain, but President Biden continues to oversee the safe departure of all personnel and allies who are still serving Afghanistan. Steph?
Marvi, you mentioned Afghan officials have already fled the country. How about those civilian residents? Are there any security plans for them?
Steph, Biden authorized the Operation Allies Refugee to grant special immigration visas or SIVs to eligible Afghan citizens and their families. The refugee access will expand to cover vulnerable Afghans who were employed by the U.S. Embassy. The U.S. military will keep providing assistance during this time and make sure that no attacks are made by the Taliban. Back to you, Steph.
Thank you, Marvi, reporting live. Malaysian Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin has handed in his resignation to the king on Monday. This came after months of political instability that caused his majority party in the parliament to step down. His 17 months in office is the shortest stint considered in Malaysian leadership. During the past weeks, Muhyiddin has failed to maintain his majority in the members of the parliament. He is facing anger from the community over the increasing COVID-19 trend despite lockdown restrictions. Muhyiddin has been appointed as caretaker prime minister until his successor is appointed. The king believes it is not the right time to call for an election and plans to invoke his rights to appoint a replacement. COVID-19 cases in Japan continues to surge a week after the 2020 Olympics ended. But experts are now on split whether the Summer Games caused the rise in numbers. Meanwhile, the government extends its state of emergency and expands it to 7 more prefectures. Ann Gonzalez tells us the details.
Japan's state of emergency is set to be extended till September 12 instead of ending it on August 31 as initially planned. The central government is also expected to declare a COVID-19 state of emergency in 7 more prefectures in addition to Tokyo and 5 other areas. This includes Ibaraki, Tochigi, Gunma, Shizuoka, Kyoto, Hyogo, and Fukuoka. Japan has also placed 10 more prefectures under quasi-emergency, which allows governors to impose restrictions similar to but less stricter than those introduced under full state of emergency. Paralympics will go on as scheduled, but spectators are not allowed to watch to curb the rise of COVID cases in the country. Top officials are positive that there's no direct link between the Olympics and the country's escalating surge as precautions were imposed during the Games, including a bubble system. However, a sociologist at the German Institute for Japanese Studies in Tokyo said that the hosting of the Olympics in Tokyo has given the wrong signal to the population. The president of the Tokyo Medical Association on Saturday has acknowledged the festive atmosphere of the Olympics and said that it might have affected the people in ways to loosen up. Ann Gonzalez, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Drug maker Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech have submitted to U.S. Food and Drug Administration the early-stage trial results for the 3rd shot of the COVID-19 vaccine. Marielle Latoza will tell us why live. Yes, Marielle?
Steph, initial trial data showed that Pfizer-BioNTech has a significant protection against the COVID-19 virus, including the beta and the highly contagious Delta variant. According to Pfizer chairman and CEO Albert Bourla, based on their data, the booster dose led to a higher protective antibodies when given 8 to 9 months after the second dose. In the statement released on Monday, the companies are also expecting results from a final stage trial which will be submitted to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, European Medicines Agency, and other regulators. Pfizer and BioNTech are now pursuing a formal approval for booster or for the booster shot rather than emergency authorization. Currently, the third shot has been authorized in the United States for emergency use for people with compromised immune systems, such as cancer and organ transplant patients. Steph?
Marielle, how did the other countries and the World Health Organization respond to the third dose of the COVID-19 vaccine?
Steph, the decision of some rich countries to secure booster shots gained some criticisms from health activists. While the World Health Organization understands the desire of governments to protect their population, WHO called for a moratorium or a temporary postponement on vaccine boosters until at least the end of September. This is due to the disparity of doses as lower-income countries struggle to have their frontliners and high-risk groups immunized. Back to you, Steph.
Thank you, Marielle, for that report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Good evening.
And before we close, we will leave you with a final word, giving glory to God. From the book of Proverbs, chapter 10, verse 28. It says, "The hope of the righteous shall be gladness, but the expectation of the wicked shall perish." And those are the reasons behind the news, August 17, 2021. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Herlene Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
Winaharap na ninyo kami. Winaharap na ninyo ang dangal ng DOH. Winaharap ninyo ang lahat ng mga kasama ko dito.
We do not flag. We just observe and recommend.